Today is Tuesday, January 19th, and the time is 6:01 p.m. and we're opening the Recreation Committee meeting. As a preliminary matter, this is Mike Volpone, Chairman of the Newbury Recreation Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipating the agenda are present and can hear me. Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. David Brohl.
Affirmative.
David Dempsey.
Affirmative.
Celine Muldowney.
Affirmative.
Mark Sand.
Affirmative.
Alicia Greco. She's here. We're just working with her.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
All right. Thank you. Employee reps are the town officials. When I call your name, anticipated guests, Chris Huntress, you're here representing the basketball court.
Yes, sir.
And Jack Rybicki, you're going to talk about the Central Street project we're talking about. Jack, you're on mute. I'm just trying to give it, Jack. To save time, Jack Rybicki is present. He's just on mute at the present moment. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, January 19th. It is 6:03 p.m. An open meeting of the Newbury Recreation Committee, which is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the constant state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public or bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonably public access is afforded, so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meetings. Ensuring to public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Newbury Recreation Committee is convened by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the Recreation Committee agenda, which can be found on the Recreation Committee page on the town's website. The agenda identifies how the public may join the meeting. This agenda can also be accessed from the website's homepage by clicking on the box that says agendas at the top of the news box. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer unless you're requested to do so by me. Anything you broadcast may be captured for the recording. Materials were provided for the board committee members prior to this meeting for the review. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules. I don't know who's got the animal or whatever. Can you chill that, please? Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective, clear, and conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. For any discussion items, I, the chair, will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, everyone other than board members, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please use earbuds, earphones with tablet and cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Take care not to screen share. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Board members will be called upon first in alphabetical order to ease the process. If board members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. That's what I had to say. So now we're on to the agenda. Give me 1 second. Where we only met 2 weeks ago, we tried to make this meeting a little bit more focused on the 3 major topics, but I would like to make a motion to suspend the order to go to the basketball court discussion of this. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do I hear any discussion? All is in favor. Celine Muldowney.
Affirmed.
David Dempsey.
Affirm.
David Brohl.
Affirmative.
And Mark Sant.
Affirmative.
Okay. Chris, you're on.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to try and share screen if I can.
Whoever is running this, are you able
Oh.
to
Yeah, hold on.
allow me to share screen? We had sent around a cost estimate about a week ago. If you don't have that, let me know. We're about to put it up on the screen, and also the set of site plans.
Did that work?
Yes,
I'm sorry, Chris, you said you sent it out to the board members?
I sent it to Michael.
I sent it to the board members.
Okay, hopefully you see side by side the cost estimate and enlargement of one of the detail sheets that shows the layout of the courts. Is that what everybody sees?
Just the enlargement, not the cost by
Not
cost.
the cost. I was hoping I could do that on a split screen. Apparently I can't. Okay, why don't I do this? I'm gonna stop share for a minute. Can everybody see the whole page there? Do you see sheet L1 in the lower right-hand corner?
Correct.
Okay. Just to recap, this is our construction document set for the basketball courts at Central Street, or basketball court. The plan that you see here is called the site prep plan for orientation. This is the existing building. There is a septic line that runs along the back where my cursor is here. It'll bring you to a holding tank here, and then the field is a little bit further down. The heavy black dash line that you see here that my cursor is following along with is the limit of work. And then the staging area would be in the gravel parking area here. The basic layout of the court is one court at 84 feet long and 50 feet wide with appropriate buffers all around. And then you've got a 10-foot by approximately 50-foot apron on either side that allows access and a little bit of gathering. And you've got a drainage channel across the front that will accept some storm water that comes off of the courts themselves. The court, because of the grade here, the court will bench into the hill a little bit. And this dark heavy line you see in the back here is a retaining wall that's approximately 2 feet tall. And presently the whole court is surrounded by a 10-foot fence. Any questions on the layout or detail before I jump to the cost? No?
Yes. You said the staging area is going to take up the parking area. Would people
Well-
have access to the back? How much of that is the existing driveway? And will
What we
people
show,
still have
what we
access?
show in this bubble here that says staging area, I'm going to zoom in on that. If it's helpful. So we've kind of given this entire area over as staging. There is a gate that sits approximately in this location here where my cursor is. In a perfect world, I'd like this area to be gated throughout the construction. I don't see this as more than a 4 to 6 week period. It would just simplify the ease of construction, make things go a little bit faster. If we wanted access back in here for walking or other things, we'd have to work that out. I'm sure we could do it. Just a little coordination with the contractor. So we could certainly do that. Did that answer your question on staging?
Yes, it's just a matter of one of the concerns that's been constantly brought up here is people bringing dogs in a field. If that's blocked off, people would be walking their dogs on the field because they don't have access through this other means.
Okay, we could always put a snow fence to allow people to come up and around this way. Or we can, listen, it's your project. You guys want to allow people in here, you can certainly do it. And we'll just have to make the contractor aware that that'll happen on occasion. We could designate a few spots down here for, recreational parking so they can get by. Just a little coordination on their end.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a problem with coning off the area past where the stone wall or the work area would be and have just like a walkway so people have to walk their dogs around that way for now. Because I don't think we've come to a firm decision on keeping dogs out, even though they're not supposed to be. So I don't, for this process, does anyone see a problem just having a 6 foot wide walkway where they can get out to those backfields?
I don't.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure that we can make something work there.
Thank you.
So these plans have been reviewed by your conservation agent and determined not to need a permit. So we are free and clear from a permitting perspective. And there's a memo in the file to that regard as well. So I'm going to stop share for just a second because I have to switch screens and then pull up the cost estimate. Which now I'm not seeing. I'm sorry. Bear with me for a second. Here we go. Can you all see the cost estimate now?
If there's any way to make it a little bit bigger, I'd appreciate it.
Zoom in. Is that
Thank
better?
you. Yes, very much.
Okay. So this is broken down, and remember these costs are costs for public construction. So there's prevailing wage is taken into account here. But we go through the 4 categories of general conditions, which are some of the like construction bonds, mobilization, and demobilization type costs. And we go through earthwork and site preparation. That's the excavation into the hill. We did include the retaining wall in this and the stormwater and drainage channel as well. And then we've got the basketball court improvements themselves that are broken down by element, and we can talk about what goes into the base bid and what might be an alternate. And then we've got the alternate products. Early on in the process, we'd been asked for a couple of things. One was a VersaCourt product for the basketball court surface, which is a resilient rubber tile, if you will. It's a hard rubber tile that comes down. It's a colored tile. You can make designs out of it and things over a concrete as opposed to asphalt surface. As we started to get in the design and we're looking at pricing, we looked at other alternatives which might save you a little bit of money, which would be asphalt paving in lieu of concrete, which you can see in the line item here at 4 inches thick at $30,000. To get to concrete, for an example, you'd have to add about $34,000 on top of the number for the asphalt. And same thing for the VersaCourt tile. We found that to be a little bit more expensive than a painted surface, which would be called PlexiPave, which has a texture to it and several coatings. But we carried let me just make sure we carried the PlexiPave resilient court surfacing is carried at $17,000, and the VersaCourt would be an additional $15,000 on top of that. That brings us to a subtotal of $207. And we added a 5% contingency because you should always carry some money for unforeseen events, which brings you to a total of $218,000. I am open, Mr. Chairman, for where you'd like to go.
I think just based on the initial cost, I mean, at least from my standpoint, and I'm going to let everybody certainly weigh in, the concrete, because we got to find a way to get that 218 down to realistically, I mean, 90,000 was approved by the town. We have $19,000 in gifts at the current moment. That puts us at 109.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could probably get it to somewhere hopefully in the 125 range. So we have a lot of work to do to try to get this down. So realistically, the concrete, for one thing, would be the first thing that I would take off the list, and there's 34 of it off.
So let me do this. Let me explain one of the ways that we would recommend that you structure this bid. It's called a base bid and then a series of alternates. So we want to try and take this down to just what you need to do to build the courts, and then everything beyond that would be alternates. You can do it in the bid form so that you can list everything, and then once you can afford the base bid, you would go down the list of alternates and take what you can afford in the order that they're listed. So I think our goal here tonight should be to look at what items are an absolute and can't be changed, and then what items could potentially come out of the base bid and moved into an alternate.
That's fine. Thank you. I presume the first 2 sections alone, that 5 and 51 are guarantees, are musts.
They are. I keep looking at this CMU retaining wall number at 22,500. And I wish we didn't have to have it, but with that septic line directly behind there, if I'm to grade up that 2 feet, I could potentially be not exposing the pipe, but giving it less than 4 feet of cover, so it could potentially freeze, which is not in compliance with Title V. So the wall is pretty much a given. So yes, those first 2 I would say are are must-haves. They have to stay in. Where you get into some of the choices, let me see if I can help you. Let me see if I can highlight a few things that.
I mean, if I was looking real quick, I'd take the player benches out. I would find a way to get the basketball hoops hopefully down to $2,000 per, preferably $1,500 per, but I think 2,000 would be within reason. So that would cut that 21,000 down to 12.
I'm sorry, how are you doing that? You're doing that by,
I'm just trying to find, there's got to be less expensive options than $3,500 hoops.
well, remember,
With installation, I'm talking.
remember, $3,500 is installed. So that's probably a $2,000 hoop that's $1,500. These have a substantial concrete footing on them, the way they go in. So yeah, but you're right. We could probably find something a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. And then the chain link fence, we originally had projected a 4-foot fence around a half of the court. I hate to bother you, David. Can you mute?
Sorry.
Thanks. If we could cut that down, we had originally, and Celine, I think you're the one that actually checked on that. I think it was about $5,000 is what we thought we would project to have that put in at when we originally did the bid. That was just a 4-foot fence from the end, from about 5 feet into the court, and then the length of the court there, and that would have been it. So hopefully, I mean, realistically, even if we cut that 39,000 down to somewhere in that 10 to 15 range, it still would be nice, but it wouldn't be what we of course would love to have, but it's just because costs.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. So you're saying get rid of all the 10-foot fence and only include a 4-foot fence around half the court?
That's where we're guessing. We'd like to at least get an idea as a minimum. And that would be what was based on the last conversation to prevent people from getting into the street as much.
Okay.
Anybody else going to weigh in on that? Mark?
Quick question about the basketball. Looking at the backboards, what kind of backboards are we looking at? Are they the acrylic, tempered glass? What's the quality and durability and replacement factor?
Well, the quality and durability is very good. We spec'd a J Pro product. I would have to, if you give me a minute, I could pull the model up and actually show you what it looks like. It would take me a minute. Would you rather break now and let me do that, or do you want to come back to that?
I think we can be okay right now. Mark, can we look at that after?
Sure.
All right.
Remind me to go back to that, and I'll pull up an image of
we will.
the cut sheet on it.
One of
So
the,
the
can we take a look at the loom and seeding? Is it possible that the town could do that and save us the 35 there?
That'd be a question for Alicia, but I think I already know the answer.
Yeah.
Alicia, are you on still, or?
Yeah, I'm here. I would need to run that by the town administrator. I'm not sure what the DPW, I mean, do they do the work now for the grass?
Yes,
They
they
do all the
do.
mowing.
Do they do any seeding, overseeding and all that stuff?
Yes, they do overseeding, they do fertilizing, weed control, as well as the cutting.
Okay, so put that on an Alicia Ask Tracy list.
And one other question, Chris.
Yes.
Where you have the alternate products, you have a total here of 34,200, but that only includes the alternative of the concrete. That doesn't include the 15,000 for the Versa surface.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't add up there, does it?
No.
So our 218 is now another, no, now we're gonna
222.
lose.
And the last two are alternatives. So that's 48,000 you could take right off of there. If we decide not to go with either one of those alternatives and move some of these other things down into the alternative bracket.
Well, Dave, one of the things that we were pushing for was the Versa court.
Right.
So just so you're aware that if we lose that, I wasn't sure if that was, it was a 17 plus, that was one of the questions, but Chris had answered that during his description, so
Right.
that kind of hurt.
Yeah, you're looking at 32,000 for the Versa.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Chris was trying to tell us at the last meeting.
And just so everyone's aware, to get to that number, we got actual quotes from the manufacturer, from VersaCourt. There is one other supplier, which is Sport Court, who we requested a number from, and we haven't heard. So they may come back. Here's the other thing I'll tell you, and is that we bid this, we set this cost estimate for prevailing wage, and based on, bids that we would expect to get in on unit prices that we have from current bids over the last couple of years. However, bids are coming in extremely aggressive right now because of where we are with regard to COVID. I can't reflect that in a cost estimate for you because the variation is huge, but it can be as much as 30% less than what we're showing. So you will get some savings out of this. The bids will come back better. So hopefully we can get it down to a number that works for you.
Right, so Chris, let me ask you the procedures as far as procurement. If we send a bid out and then we realize at that point in time, we still have to take some more of the cost off, what do we have to go through as far as change orders and all of that stuff to get it so that we have some flexibility?
You can't award the project under Mass General Law. You can't award the project unless your town accountant certifies availability of funds. So you can't say get a minimum bid of 150 and then go negotiate with that guy to get it down to 120.
Okay, all
We
right,
have to get you to a number that you can afford, which means we either have to get the cost down or you guys are going to have to find more money
okay,
to be able to award the project. Then you could, once you award the project, you could then, horse trade it down a little bit with the selected contractor.
okay.
But we want to try and do as much of this up front as possible and how we set the bid up. It'll make it easier for everybody. So certain things we can do, just looking at this, I've got the asphalt paving in it, 4 inches thick. I can make that 3 inches thick, which would save a little bit of money. And 3 inches is a very typical asphalt cross section. We tend to go 4 on the courts because it's better, but you could reduce that to 3 inches. Is that something you'd like to see us do?
I'd kind of be against it, but
Okay.
Yeah,
Concur with Dave on that.
I think the extra cost is going to be longevity, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. And it's not like you're going to get 25% off because you took 25% of the thickness out. At that point, the labor's there. It's really just the material cost only, which is not, you're talking a couple grand.
I think one of the big savings would be to the chain link fence. I mean, there's $40,000 essentially in the chain link fence. And if we can either, specify, like we said before, a 4-foot high chain link fence going parking lot side,
Mm-hmm.
that could probably save us some money.
Yeah, certainly. Just going to resave this estimate so we could actually start showing you what it might look like. So if we were to do things, I'll go down through this list here. I just saved this as a new model. Let me know if you guys don't see these changes. I don't think I affected it, but I'm going to zero out a few things to see what that does to our total. So say we didn't do the alternates, right? So those come out. And you could wait on the players' benches and surface mount those so that keep them out.
Yep.
The granite benches are nice to have, but not a need to have. And if loam and seed's done by the town, that would be loam and seed. That's a possible. The rest, asphalt paving, fences. Let's see. Let's take this cut that in half. So you'd have 175 linear feet at about $48 a linear foot. For a 4-foot fence would take it down to 8,400. That gets you down to a base bid price of 132 without any aggressiveness on the bidding.
139 or 132?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the subtotal would be the bid at 132. We always recommend that you
Oh, okay, that's right.
additional funds beyond that. So I guess, yeah, the total would be approximately 140, but you would only need, you wouldn't need the 5% contingency to be able to sign a contract with somebody.
And you're saying there's a good chance because of COVID, you could probably knock 30% off of that for bidding?
I'm not gonna, you shouldn't rely upon 30%. There will be a discount. But what it is, I can't really guarantee. We've seen some bids come in as much as 30% below where we expected them to.
Here's a question.
David, hold it. Mark, go ahead.
Quick question, Chris, regarding earth.
Mark, can you speak up?
Regarding the earthwork allowance, what does that entail? It doesn't seem to be a hard number. It's at 18,000.
It's an allowance. It is a hard number. There's a lot of math that goes into it and a lot of line items that added up. But that's the basic cut and fill throughout the site. But it also includes that earthwork allowance, includes all the gravel underneath the asphalt or concrete base that you would have, which is probably half of that cost alone is in the dense grade gravel that would come back in.
Gotcha.
David, go ahead.
Is it with the bid, can we still add in the alternative? Like if, like let's say we're at 140 right now. Can we put in possible on top of that VersaCourt? And if that doesn't work out, if that's an alternative of one of our, bid options,
Yes.
to still have that in there?
You would. So
Okay.
we're not going to take anything out of the bid. We're going to shuffle everything around, right? So we're going to skinny up the base bid to as much as we can, which is probably around this scope here, and hopeful that some of these numbers come in a little bit cheaper. But then you're going to have a whole list of alternates. So you're going to have, and then you have to structure them 1 through whatever, let's say 10.
Prioritize.
And you have to take them in that order later. You can't, you have to take 1 before 2 and 2 before 3. You can't take 1 and 7 and skip over everything in between. So there's a little bit of gamesmanship into how you structure those and where you put the ones that you really want. You try and put them up front as long as it's not a huge budget buster. So what I can tell you in talking to the VersaCourt guys, their preference is to go on concrete, but they go on asphalt all the time. So I would put the VersaCourt resilient tile as probably number 1, in place of the first alternate. And then concrete may move further down the list because you may not get to it because it's such a big number. The players' benches may be more important to you. So you move something like that in front of the concrete. You don't want an alternate that's so big up early that it prohibits you from getting some of the others down the list, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we were kind of resigned to the fact we weren't going to be able to do concrete.
Okay.
So it's really more of a, here's your base plan, here's your base information, and then adding option 1 and then adding option 2. So it's almost like we're pretty close. If we can get the hoops cheaper, even if you get them down to like $2,000 a piece, there's 9. That puts us about 123.
Probably not where we're going to see a lot of savings out of the hoops. With 6 of those, there's just not a lot of money in there. But you could potentially see some out of like the CMU retaining wall. We got budget numbers in from the wall companies at first, close to 30,000, which was way offline for where we were. When we run it, it was closer to 19 to 20,000. So we took it down to 22.5. I think you're going to see some savings in the wall number and potentially in the earthwork. We talked about this number being a big number, 18,000. It all depends on who the contractor is that you're using and what site they're working on now. They may have a site that they're able to mine some gravel from and use that over here to help them win the bid. So it's those kind of things that will influence who actually finally wins this thing.
So, Chris, if we stuck with the 132,800 as our base bid with additional alternatives, and even if we came in 20% under because of the lack of work that's out there right now and guys are bidding kind of tight, we'd be down around 106. And then, like you said, if we can cut some off the wall and cut some off a little further, you know, we're now in a ballpark, we might be able to add back on some of the alternatives. And I know you didn't want to commit to 30%, but even at 10%, we're still taking, you know, 13,280, you know, quite a bit of money off there if we can save 10 or 20%. So
You are.
how do you feel? Do you feel comfortable at that price, putting it out there that we could, it could come back at a feasible figure of, you know, 110, around that figure somewhere?
Yeah, I do. You know, there are certain things we could do. We could look at taking fence out entirely. Not that you want to do that, but taking it out entirely and putting it back in as a unit price. And a unit price is different than an alternate. I don't mean to start splitting hairs here, but under the bid laws, I can award a unit price irregardless of the alternates. So we can just get a unit price for 4-foot fence and a unit price for 10-foot fence, and then figure it out once the numbers come in.
Right.
So there are certain little tricks we can do here that I think make it work for you.
Mark?
Two points. One is the fence. Since the gate was installed, actually both gates were installed, traffic along that route is not going to be going as fast. So less fence is a viable option. But Chris, let me clarify something. Whatever our final bid number is, the base bid, we have to have the money to be signed off by our accountant
You do.
or town manager, whomever. It needs to be the amount of money that we have available to us, correct?
Yep.
Correct. You have to be able to sign the contract. Yeah.
So we can't
So-
figure that 10% into anything. We have to have 132.8. And then if
No.
we're for,
No. You have to have if the low bid comes in at 110, you have to have 110.
That's you
Oh,
sign
So
off.
right now, we only have 109 available.
Right.
Okay.
So if it comes in at 115 and you want to award the bid, you're going to have to find that extra money. Or we pull it back out and rebid it. But I got to be honest, there's just not a lot of fluff here. So there aren't things that we, if there's something we can do to take the price down, we should try and do that now, as opposed to getting bids in and putting it back out a second time.
plus the timing, as you were talking about before.
Yeah.
This, if we're going to do it, this is the time to do it. So we need to make sure we get it all done. So,
Yeah.
Again,
go ahead, Mark.
Chris, going back for durability, I am curious about what kind of backboard and the durability of the backboard that's being used, and more importantly, the replacement cost.
Yep.
Whether it is the what is it, polycarbonate, acrylic, because it's out all season, unsupervised. It's not the good old metal ones or the wooden ones that some of us grew up with. But what is being offered in that line item?
Yep. I'm going to pull that up for you now. It'll just take me a second to get to the spec. So bear with me.
I assume that they're all standard height and not adjustable.
Correct.
I'm curious also on the rims on those, if they're, are they fixed? Are they designed for dunking, breakaways or whatever?
Let me get these for you. Pull it up.
Dad, I don't want to play basketball anymore. I was telling Alicia your comment on. They can't hear me. Nobody's.
Celine, can you
What?
mute everybody?
Can I what?
Can you mute Leslie, please? Thank you. All right, they redid it. I don't think they meant to add to that.
Sorry.
It's okay.
You will be taking discussion on some of this.
We will be, yes.
Terrific, thanks.
Sorry, folks. Give me just 2 seconds here. gonna stop share and then reshare. So this is the backboard right now. We would not be buying this from Walmart, but when I did a search by model number, it happened to come up here. We'd be buying direct from JPro, but this is what it looks like. It is affixed in place. It does have a steel post and a steel arm, acrylic backing or backboard. I'm sorry. See if they've got any other. Oh, here's some of the information on it. 48-foot embedment in the ground. Heavy duty flex goal and nylon net included. Pole padding is included as well. So that's what you're looking at there. And I can pull the spec and get a cut sheet on it and send it over and around, Michael, if that's preferable.
Please, if you would. Thank you.
I'll look at some other options by JPro. I'll go into their catalog and see what they've got. This is a model that we have spec'd before in commercial and community projects, and it holds up well. It's very durable, so that's why we used it. I can see what else they've got in there, and I can call the JPro rep and see if he's got something more affordable for us.
Yeah, that's why I was curious when we saw that. I mean, it's $2,400, and I'm like, that doesn't include the installation. So when we were talking 35, I'm going, maybe if we got something a little less expensive that's not crazy. I'm not talking downgrading too much, but when we're starting to talk about a couple $1,000 here and there times 6, if we can save $500 times 6 is $3,000 that can make a big difference.
Let me see if I can get on their website real quick. See if we can look at the options.
Yeah. While he's doing this, does anybody else have any comments? And that includes Leslie. Do you want to, or Deb? Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, well, I had just a couple of things I wanted to have a little clarification on. The difference in price between the concrete and the reduction in the depth of the asphalt, how much would that save?
$34,000.
That's a 34,000. So 34,000 from concrete, but then it would be from what was it, a 6-inch to a
4-inch.
4-inch?
4-inch asphalt, 6-inch concrete. The asphalt was $30,000. The concrete was an additional 34.
Okay. And I have a kind of like I guess it's like a security question. So you have the retaining wall on the backside, and it's the height of 4
2 feet
feet,
tall.
2 feet.
Yep.
And you want to keep this, when it's not being used, locked up, correct?
No,
That's up to you guys.
No, we
So-
want this to be available for people.
yeah, all the time.
Okay. That was my question. So I just wasn't sure if, you had a lock on the front, but then people could jump over the back and get in that way. But, okay, that's it for me. Thank
Deb,
you.
did you have anything, or was there something else you want to talk about?
No, I was just, I'm just trying to do a little bit of the math on this side of it. So
Yep,
I
not a
mean,
problem.
what I went through with like the granite bench is not necessary. The fence can be reduced in numbers. And then, I'm looking at like we could scale, I mean, looks like we could scale it down to like $102,000 if you eliminate some of the stuff that is, kind of luxury items, but
Tell me how you get to 102. Because
I was
how
just going to say that.
the fence, how can you reduce the fence?
well, we've already brought the fence down to
You're going to
$8,400.
reduce it by like down to $19,580, right?
We've taken it down to 8,400 to get to 132.
Okay.
That's a $31,000 reduction.
And that what that would have is
Starting at 139, I'm sorry. 139, 440 is where we wanted to get down to. I know we're over at $200,000, but, to try to get down to the base price that we can all work with.
I'm not sure if you can see your screen, but we've got the cost estimate up on the screen. that shows
Yeah, if
that
you could
breakdown.
enlarge it just a little bit, because I got old eyes going on over
Of course.
here.
Right,
Thanks.
right now, let's just so you're aware, we're at 132. That's the number. The additional money to get to 139 is a contingency that we do not have to build into the bid, at least at this point. We would have to, as a committee, would have to handle that.
Okay. So that's what we're looking at, is trying to come up with that the additional funding to go in that direction to complete the project.
That would be correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
How's that? Is that easier?
That's great, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's way easier. Thank you.
No problem.
Excuse me, Mike, it's Alicia. I'd like to clarify something if I could for Leslie.
Please.
The town meeting appropriated $90,000 to this project, and the committee has raised $19,000 outside of, as private funding for youth basketball, some basketball sports and a few other things. So this, the town's going to be responsible for no more than $90,000. The rest is going to be private donations. I'm not sure if you were aware of that.
Yes, Alicia, thank you very much. I am aware of that. I was just looking for additional clarification from my end, and I appreciate all the help. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right, so Chris, at this point, I like the idea of creating your basic plan and then what alternatives we want from there. I don't want to spend the entire meeting doing it, but as you said, we really do need to get this resolved tonight. So I don't want to take away from the other pieces of the agenda, but this right now is got to be the main focal point, at least for the of the committee, until we get this resolved, at least tonight. So.
Of course.
So if we have the top two sections, it's almost like, can you create a column in here just to say, okay, here's the base bid, and then with the alternatives. And I mean, you've done this, you know what you're looking at. The best way to put this together. So I'm certainly open to yours. I'm just trying to see how we can move this along.
I did. If you guys want to jump to another topic, I could take a few minutes and reconfigure it. I don't want to take up your time to do it
No,
live in front of you, but I could, I could restructure it with a list of alternates and base bid items.
cool. All right, we'll come back then.
Can we just
Mark,
add one thing? I know you spoke briefly about it before, Chris, but at this juncture, if we were to have a full court with just the two baskets with the footings or prep for footings for the other four at a later date, would there be any potential savings with that, noting that the hoop that you showed us from Walmart was $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
So put in two and then prep it for a later date where we can add two or four at a time.
It's possible. The only problem is, the footing is pretty large. And I'm just thinking out loud. We'd probably have to set a square sleeve into the concrete footing and get a cap on it. And that would allow you to set the goal in place when you're able to buy it. But the sleeve would come with the backboard, typically with the goalpost. It would typically come.
Okay.
I can think about, I don't think the savings are going to be as dramatic as you think, because you're going to have to buy the sleeve and you're doing all the labor.
Gotcha.
okay.
Okay.
All right. So Chris, if you want to work on that, and we'll go back to the other part of the meeting, and then before we get finished, we'll or when you're ready, let us know and we'll come back to you. Okay.
I'm going to send, Mr. Chairman, I'll send you a quick chat message when I'm ready. How's that?
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
All right,
And I
I'm
appreciate
gonna-
your help with this.
I'm going to mute and turn my video off, but I'll be here if you need me.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion to go back to the agenda?
I motion to go back to the agenda.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Any discussion? All is in favor? Celine,
yes.
David Broll,
Yes.
David Dempsey,
Yes.
Mark Sam.
Yes.
Okay. Reading of the previous meeting's minutes. I read them through. Thank you, Mark, as I said before. I didn't see any issues. Anybody else catch anything? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Celine?
Yes.
David Brohl?
Yes.
David Dempsey?
Yes.
Mark Stan?
Yes.
Approved. Thank you again, Mark. Correspondence. Did anybody get anything via mail, email, whatever in the last 2 weeks? I did not.
What about
Okay.
the Huntress thing you signed today?
That would go into the next thing on bills and claims, but so all that was for 37.
3725.
I think that's what I wrote it. We did it for.
I apologize. I didn't see that come through at all.
And I just, when I saw it, I figured you were buried, and I know you got a lot going on your plate, so I just wanted to make sure.
And you have authority to sign, you know that.
That's why I did it.
Okay.
The amount is $37.25, and that was part of the his fee for doing all this work. That's the initial one. So, okay. Any questions on that? All right. Just making sure. Celine, did you get any other bills and claims during the last 2 weeks? I did get, and I thought I had sent it, and if I didn't, give me 1 minute, was the month reports. Yes, I did send it out to everybody. So right now, currently, according to the town, we have spent very little, $1,100 so far this year, and have just over 49,000 in our budget. I mean, we
Did we
still have
get
this,
charged for the fall mowing?
it has not, according to this, it has not been done yet. Not come out of our budget.
Just keep that on your radar.
Yeah.
Michael, can you ask the town accountant to add that in? They didn't put it in last spring either. So we
Okay.
should remind them so we don't get hit later.
We don't have to remind them. Maybe they'll forget.
Alicia,
I'm
we're
just
gonna get
saying.
hit for that later.
Well, you never know.
I'm just saying, if we need to find money to pay for this basketball court, it may come out of the budget a little bit like the roof did. So, old business. What was that?
I said we shall see.
Okay. Old business, we have the basketball court, which we're gonna sidestep at this point. The Central Street Field overall plan. Jack, we were asking if you could give us some background and talk for like 5-10 minutes on your ideas and thoughts. Did we lose you?
Nope. I hope I'm
Okay.
unmuted now.
Okay.
We good?
Yes.
Just to double check, at the conclusion of the last meeting, I did forward or re-forward emails to everyone who was on at the last meeting. Mike, you're saying that no emails came over to you from me after the last meeting I tried
I got that. I got that email. I thought that was part of it. That wasn't like a correspondence that we were.
Okay,
receiving from
okay.
this.
Very good. I appreciate that. I was just wondering if, for the points of reference, but I took a lesson from my daughter, so I hope I'm able to utilize the screen sharing with Celine's help in a bit. I say that, first off, thank you all for taking the time to keep your ears attuned to this. That includes Alicia too. Thank you for suggesting it at the last meeting. I think we're all talking about something. I think we've all been in Newbury long enough, all of us, that we've been together, this committee in some form for almost 20 years now, and basically still trying to accomplish what was initially set out by a plan with the Huntress put out a long time ago. So what I'm proposing is nothing more than memory of that plan in conjunction with citizen input and desires 20 years in waiting. That's what we're talking about here. We can talk about the daunting prospects fiscally afterwards, but I think, Celine, if you allow screen sharing to me, I believe, and I have Dana available if I need her, I think I can put up a couple of the documents. So,
Try it now.
okay, let's see. Yep. And
Just click on the,
there it comes.
yeah.
All right, I want to go backwards though. So how did I do?
Just click on the picture.
Top one,
Yep.
yep.
All right, here we go.
And then
Okay. Oh yeah, right. And then I can do the tall. All right, so there we go. Just going backwards in time a little bit. This dates to 1971. This historic aerials is a great site I use for my history passion. But you can see here the original Fatherland Farms to the left of Central Street, which is the yellow line coming about a third of the way through your picture. To the right, in red, is outlined what is today Central Park, Central Street Fields. You can see a lot of the areas clearly in use presently, and although you can't tell depth from here, you can see the field is well used and entirely in use. Now let's see if I go to the next one. This is the assessor's map. You know, you guys have all seen it. This is the 62 acres itself from Central Street. Same view as what you just saw. This is just again coming from Central, heading east, hits the river. There's a beautiful little stream that runs back towards Central from there, and that forms the natural boundary before you go into some surveyed boundary. And then last, this is the what I propose, what Central Park I believe is the amalgamation of everything I believe we all would have expected from the beginning, because as taxpayers in 2001 purchasing it, was bought to be both active and passive recreation for the benefit of every age citizen, and not just the youth-oriented fields that has become for the last preponderance, of years. So what I'm going to do is give you a quick overview as we would come into the field. In yellow, you can see the gravel parking lot to the bottom of the screen. Again, the red outline is the encompassment of the 63 acres. Seasonally, it's been suggested the two yellow squares. Of course, in the winter, the lower square tends to be a sledding field that we can do a little bit of cleaning up with and make it more safe and reliable for the smaller kids that we use a hill such as that, because that would be that'll go in conjunction with above it. Many ice rinks nowadays are out. It's not a big cost, but it's a big benefit. In pink, in front of the field house, would be a really nice playground. We don't have a playground in town. Yes, there's one at NES, but in theory, if school isn't open, you're trespassing on school grounds, so you really shouldn't be there anyway. And I submit to you that the library one is functional if you're looking for a book and you have your child out front. That notwithstanding, I believe there's an alley that's in front. When you stand in front of the field house building, you look straight ahead, in the fields, the way they're set up, the larger fields, you've created a beautiful alley there. The playground would sit just below that alley, but be able to see most of the four fields that are in play at that time. I think it flows. It's the first thing that should happen, because one of the things about all of us bringing children or our players and youth participants to the field here is when you have someone younger, you don't have anything to do, and it's hard to keep everyone satisfied at the same moment on those on the fields. And I think in general, the playground itself would be a wonderful asset to the town in and of itself. Moving on, the lower field that you see in lime green. that field, as you saw in the original historical photo, used to be a very nice field. It's a little overgrown now, but that's not prohibitive to a dog area being fenced in there along the way over time. Trails can be cut through there, and there's a lot of ways to enjoy that area. I'll note, although I didn't put the mark there, it's at that right angle there. You can barely see in light print. That's the trail that would go back towards Triton and the Triton properties. You can barely make it out there, but that's how you would reconnect to the Triton, which is of course the land immediately to the right. Following the old gravel road there, you come to the blue. People refer to it as the knoll. I submit, and perhaps Chris can come on after he's done. He can maybe give some insight, but we've talked about it, or it was talked about at the last meeting. I believe this area is very available with some massaging to enlarge the field prospects for use. I think it would be infinitely more prudent use of monies than it would be going to try to open up the other Kent Way in any way, shape, or form at this time, as we've talked about. Youth numbers are declining, not inclining. Off of that knoll, once massaged, the purple little piece there is there's a little drainage pipe there that ties into, you can see what becomes a little bit of drainage that goes out to the marsh. After that remassage, the line you see in gray there would be the kayak and canoe landing. It would be easy to massage that because it couches along the nice island that you see there that actually has a nice trail system on it that ties into the island to the right of the bottom of the asphalt that the Boy Scouts have worked diligently on bridging to get to, because encircling that island also as well as a beautiful walking trail that would circle back, or that can circle back around back onto the asphalt. So I say to you all, let me move out of this if I can exit. Unless anybody has any questions on just the overall, just the physical use of the asset as it sits is all that this presentation is for the moment. So I'm going to hop out. Without question, it's daunting that based on you already have a lot on your plate. Clearly, the rec committee does in fitting the basketball court budgetarily into the goings on that necessarily should be there, as well as these other proposed areas of interest, shall we say. I think that as recently as 2017, I look back, when the $200,000 was allocated to the committee to finish up the building. Even then, I think they put, I'll speak because I think it was Mark. It was, there's always, on behalf of the rec committee, presentation information regarding the current state of the project and ask for help in getting it completed. It was, very worked hard and did. But what I come to is the care and maintenance is in place, and the committee envisions the building will generate positive cash flow. Per the committee, the vision of the NRC is to open the area for local children and adults in town and to add programs and activities for all ages. I submit to you in 2017, you were repeating what I said in 2007 when I sat on the committee, which is part of a plan which was initiated in 2001, and it's 2021. I think we're far beyond the time of action. And I submit to you that properly done, each of these actions, the knoll massage, the river landing, the dog park, the passive walking trail that I noted that needs to be just sharpened up, because in sharpening it up, it becomes in tune in the winter, a cross-country ski trail possibility to couch with the sledding and the ice rink that goes there. I think that the rink and sled alone are incredible ideas and very inexpensive to do. The playground is an asset that's just long overdue for everyone. if you go to Cashman Park, you go to the other towns where when we were young, we had to bring our kids to other towns to achieve just what we have the ability to build here. We have a wonderful pearl here. And I think that if this is coordinated properly and seeded, I think dog walkers are going to take care of the dog area. I think the outdoor people are going to take care of that river landing. I think the winter people will be the ones that would love to put the ice rink up and down. And I think volunteerism, in the sense of the interests addressed here, will foster their own moving forward with the projects. But without question, it'll take the town to seed the money. And I think running through these, I'm not a contractor, but I think done properly, using machine work all at the same time, because it would be machine work to move the playground, machine work like with your basketball court, machine work for a little bit of the dog park, machine work at the knoll. All of this could be coordinated properly. The materials moved around, shucked a bit. And if at town meeting, I'm willing to put the question forth, if under the guise of building Central Park like this, to ask for the monies to make this plan happen over and above your basketball court. That would be what I would come here today to you to be professing for the best for every citizen, because I think this plan speaks to every type citizen we have, from the youngest to the very oldest, who can sit on that wonderful field house porch in a rocking chair if they're so inclined, but to overlook the playground, the adolescents using the green field, the basketball court kids, the passive recreation that occurs, all the things that don't occur there now that are long overdue. That's
Jack, thank you very much for all that. Fortunately for you, that a lot of these ideas have come up. Where we were going to put them is a whole different idea. So we've been talking about the ice rink for at least 2 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, other members of the committee, that we were actually thinking about the baseball field over by the library for that, but that was one idea. We've been talking about a playground, but it's just a question of getting the funds and working that through. So that's been our biggest stumbling block. Once we had to get through all the initial things, we all came on the committee, and then finishing the field house, the basketball court ended up being the next thing on the list. But we do have other things on this, and a lot of what you said, I agree with 100%.
And some of the site work you were
David?
talking about, I think, and I don't think it's been discussed with the contractor, but maybe that's something, I don't know how we'd go about doing that with the Town and Conservation Commission, but they're going to be removing a lot of soil from that. You know, they're taking 2 feet off of the basketball court down to nothing over 100 feet. So that's a certain amount of backfill that may be usable to kind of level off that area you were talking about before, that knoll. So that might be, you know, some free backfill for that.
I submit, Michael, if I might, I submit to Alicia directly because she represents the select board. Mike, this is more than a Newbury Rec Committee thing, because it's always pushed off. Everything we talked about is pushed off. Someone has to finally say it's time, in citizens' interests, because it's a citizen-based direct benefit to every single citizen, and it's an asset to the community that adds nothing but value to an already very nice town, which is without in this case. And I say that it takes, the Newbury Rec Committee shouldn't be tasked with making money. You're not supposed to be a making money proposition, in my view. The fact that once Newbury kids have and fields needs have taken place, and Triton's field needs has been taken place, I don't think it's incumbent on the field or yourselves to do anything but be managing the fields and maintaining the fields and going to the town to make up a balance should there be one. But the premise that you need to be a money-making operation, whether it's we built the field house to be a hot dog stand, or we're going to sell ice cream all the time and we can only have it if it's making money, that's not it. What's there for, it should be there to serve the citizens. And right now, there's very little there that serves every citizen. It's just a fact. That's just There's a lot of people that don't feel welcome there. It's an open field for kids with a red building on it. And until the select board takes the initiative to take a plan fully visioned and say, we're going to complete it, it's doable for everybody, then I submit to you, Mike, it's not incumbent on you to come up with it. It's up to the board to come up with a plan to say, this is what we need to pursue. And it's not incumbent on you to come up with the funding. It's incumbent upon the town to say, great idea.
All right, Mark, go ahead.
Couple of things. Jack, appreciate your work in this now and before. I look at my position on boards as a stewardship. It's, I do what I can when I'm there and then move on and return. And as a piece of property, it's a stewardship. Everybody takes ownership and responsibility for it to maximize its potential at that given point in time and keep moving forward. What the needs were 20 years ago are a little bit different now, as you articulated with the changes in youth sports populations, as well as our own populations. And I agree with you that the area needs to have more focus other than youth sports. But I do take exception with a couple of things. One, we are not a money-making operation. What we are is a entity within the town, which we provide as for cost recovery. In other words, we don't make any money. Anything that we collect goes to the town, and you know that. We don't get any additional money. We get a budget, and that's all we are allowed to.
I think you misheard me, Mark. I said you're not a money-making enterprise. And you're
I
not supposed
understand
to be a money-making. You're not supposed to be.
What I'm trying to articulate is one of the reasons is the language that you quoted me on from the building, creating of the building was what is the purpose of putting up $200,000 for a building if it's just a set of bathrooms? We've been operating with just porta potties. And part of it is our goal at that time was to encourage more use, particularly during the summer when there's organizations that are looking for space to do tournaments. So that was the intent of bringing more organizations and opportunities for Triton Youth Soccer, Triton Youth Lacrosse, to hold tournaments that would bring additional monies in, that would help us reduce day-to-day fees for them. But be that as it may, one of my questions is, you've been around long enough. Why didn't they massage the knoll originally? Was there any restrictions to that? Or they just didn't want to do it?
I submit to you that it was done to mitigate the neighbor at the time. And it was created as a buffer area. As you'll notice, it's up against Couch's house. It's not an accident. That's what I said to you. I don't think there was anything ever wrong with it. When we walked the field back then, we questioned why it wasn't being addressed. And you can't undo what was done. But I can only submit to you that it was questioned unequivocally. Why wouldn't it be done over there? And it was told to us, because we were representing the baseball league at the time, that would be the baseball area. And that it would be, you're going to bring us back in history, that would be under our cost. If that area were to be developed, it would be under the Byfield Newbury Baseball League in order to do it, when we said we just paid for a $400,000 bond that's doing the build out, bring the bulldozer over. And needless to say, Kent Way got purchased. That land was left as a buffer for Dr. McDonald, or as a untouched area for future use, I would consider it. And we sit here today with it, I would say, very much a lot of square feet and footage available, if not for genuine, at least nothing else to match the two fields that are already in place along that border. Maybe slightly smaller for the smaller youth kids, but infinitely available for at least two fields. I didn't take my tape measure wheel out there, but by counting my feet steps, it's considerable.
Okay, I just don't know how much fill that would take, and if there's any, again, any restrictions statewide, because you are bordering or part of wetlands.
And that's why I made it a point, Mark, to show the historic aerial, because it shows the land previously used as such. It was remassaged in that way to create an extension of the ravine down to the salt marsh. And that's why you see that small piece of purpleness represents the drain pipe that brought back some of the drain distance. But Chris could probably attest if he walked out there. You could put 40 more feet onto that. It would accomplish the same thing as the pipe that's standing there does now. And we could fill over it and again, remassage, to your point directly, Mark, sure.
Again, I don't know how much fill that would take and how long that would take. Again, I think it's important that we continue to work on Kent Way at this time, because as you articulated earlier, the town bought it for one purpose. And right now it's not being used for that.
It won't be either. There's not use for it. The Byfield Newbury Baseball League can barely take up the time as it exists at Martha Pearson, in conjunction with what we do at the upper green. We're more than taken care of. Even in consideration, that's with having taken the softball league under the same banner as well, because there's two softball fields over at Newbury Elementary that are more than sufficing as well. The teams just aren't there. It's the kids want to play virtual. They don't want to play real anymore, Mark. That's what's coming at us.
I understand that. So by your own acknowledgement, we don't need to develop fields at Kent Way because of lower numbers, but yet we want to build out Central Street environmental recreational resource area for more fields. So I'm a little confused on that, but I appreciate the work you've done, and there's things that we, as Michael said, we've looked into. I do know when I talked to some of the people who are involved more with the environmental aspect of the acquisition of the property for the canoeing and whatnot, we did look into that, and at that point, I remember talking to one of the focal point persons, and the state was and has money to develop canoe launches. Unfortunately, when we put the gate in, that denies access to it, so they can't do that. It would be our own money. And then when I brought the engineers out, they were looking at it and saying, well, as a tidal river, there's a lot of federal and state regulations because of its tidal. I don't know if you guys went into any of that when you created the plan, but particularly, has anybody ever canoed that or swam in that? Yeah. So you know how tough it can be if you don't time it right.
Oh yeah.
If the tide's coming in and you're going down and you go nowhere fast.
That's part of the adventure, Mark. Timing the tides, just like the colonists, you know.
Well, I mean, and I'm sure you swam at the Rock and then got pulled down to the Military Bridge. Anyways,
I apologize.
Love the idea.
All right, Jack. Thank you very much for this. It's good information, and I encourage you to do what you want to do it in this situation. We're certainly, as a committee, going to try to get more developed into the field. That's the plan that we're looking at, and we want to do more there. So it's a question of getting it done. Chris just notified me that he has got the stuff that we need so we can go over this done because we have 15 minutes up to the meeting. So I want to get back to Chris and Celine. If you would let him reshare his screen, I'd appreciate it if he hasn't been changed. Chris, you're up. Chris, you're on mute. Chris, if you can hear me, you're muted.
Everybody.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Apparently, when you share a screen, you can't unmute. All right. Does everybody see a Excel spreadsheet in front of them now?
Yep.
Okay. I'll make this as big as I can. So what we've done is taken these top three categories and broken it down into what would be needed for a base bid, which is the basketball goals and posts still at 6 at 3,500, the 4-foot chain link fence around the front of the courts only, the asphalt paving and the painted surface. And we've come down all the items that we discussed, including the Versa court, the loam and seed, players benches, granite benches, concrete, and the 10-foot fence. We made them all alternates in the list and in the order that we would reasonably recommend them. I think we could juggle a few things around if needed. Which brings us to a base bid here at 131,300 and change. And then you've got your list of alternates down below.
Does anybody see any of the alternative products at the bottom? Would you flip things, move things, whatever? The only thing I saw was I would probably flip 5 and 6. I'd probably want to do the fence before I do the concrete, but that's just me.
I still think that the town would probably do the lumen seed.
Right, so I took it out and made it an alternate. It's really not something I would typically recommend because I want the contractor to finish that kind of stuff and not walk away from it looking, a project looking unfinished. But if you're comfortable with that, then we could certainly pull that out.
I say we leave it, and then worst case, we can find out if we need to remove it, or if we needed to either bump it down. If we're really concerned, we really want, I mean, is it more important? It's more, I think it's more important than the players' benches and the granite benches. And of course, in the other two pieces.
What I could do is move loam and seed into a unit price per cubic yard and or per square foot per se. And that way you could choose to award it at the end and it wouldn't affect your alternate. So that's, you know, again, I said there's a little bit of gamesmanship as to how you structure this, and there's 3 ways to do it. There's base bid, alternates, and then unit prices. So I could move it into unit prices, which might make more sense than listing it as an alternate.
Chris, my suggestion would be to leave that as an alternate and move the fencing into a unit pricing.
I think you could do that too. Yeah.
That way we could actually take a look at, you know, what is the best fence to put out there? Do we want to split the difference and put a 6-foot fence all the way around, or we can put it as a unit price separately and come up with that as an individual separate price, which if you look at that would bring this down another 8,000, would put it right in the ballpark, and then we could, you know, get a bid out on the fence separately.
Yeah, you don't really want to bid the fence separately because your footings are going to be integral to the rest of the asphalt paving and everything else, but you could get different pricing on it, certainly.
Right. So when you say a unit price, that's it's included in the bid, but it's in a separate unit pulled out of the bid at the same time.
Correct. What we do on almost every project that we do, we say like asphalt, for instance, asphalt paving, I'll put a unit price in there for the cross section, which is the 4 inches of asphalt plus the 12-inch subgrade or sub base. And I'll have a unit price per square foot for that. So if we decide to add 10 square feet someplace, you know what it is.
Okay. All right.
And we'd live with that. So we would do the same thing. We could do it with fencing. We could do it with loam and seed,
Okay.
which kind of pulls it out of the alternate to makes your alternate selections a little bit easier.
Okay.
All right, that's a good idea.
Okay.
What's everybody's thoughts on this? Because we really want to make sure we wrap this in and get this out to bid as soon, because now it's more of a timing thing. Because if we're going to take advantage of any possible decent deal, this is the time to do it.
I think it looks good.
I like it.
I think it's time to go.
Mark?
Chain link fence, I mean, that's not gonna save that much, maybe 2 gates. So that's going around.
Mark, can you speak up, please? For some reason, you're really hard to hear today.
The chain link fence, is that going all the way around and needing 2 gates, or is that just a
No,
straight
what we
line?
did, we took it back to 144 feet, which would, I'm going to stop share. Well, I won't stop share. It goes across the entire length of the court as it abuts the parking area, and then returns 20 feet on either side.
Gotcha, okay. All right, but that's still, with 137, that's still way above the amount of cash we have on hand, or resources to spend on it.
And remember, it's really the 131 number that we're looking at because the,
Yeah, 131. It's
yeah,
still,
and I'm not saying that it's not money we get out there. It's a question of, we would have to come up with an additional $22,000, most likely out of our
before
budget
we
like
can
we
put it
did.
up.
Yeah, well, no, we can put it out for bid, but we can't accept a bid until we have it. And Chris, am I correct in that statement or?
I believe you are. I mean, it would really come down to your town administrator and town treasurer, but most communities will have their treasurer sign off that funds are available before you can accept the bid.
So we can set the bid out based on what we're looking at and the numbers here. I mean, certainly we're not going to give them the numbers. We're going to have them tell us what it is. But once we get the bid, then we can decide whether we're going to take it. We can accept to take it and then have to determine how we're going to do money wise. So
Just so you guys are aware, so when I advertise this in the central register, I have to put an estimated value. I'm going to put it in at 100 grand. And you know, it doesn't have to be necessarily accurate, but it kind of sets the stage for what your expectation is.
okay.
That sounds good.
So the next question. Someone has me on something. Chris, how soon can we get the bid, the proposal put together then?
Well, we could be at the point where we're accepting bids probably in mid-February. I would have to advertise in the central register for 2 weeks and combis for 2 weeks. You know, the deadlines for that are Thursday by noon to advertise next Wednesday. So it would probably be a week from now that we'd be submitting to the central register.
Mike, I think that you, me, and Tracy and Eileen should sit down and look at this, and maybe Chris.
The Purdue family changes.
If we're going to do this, we're going to need to do this in the next couple of days then.
Yes, but we need to bring the town administrator in on this, and so that she understands what it is we're doing, and this will go more smoothly if we bring her in.
That's fine. Do you want to coordinate that with Tracy, and whatever you get for time? Thursday's my only problem. I have a day. Other than that, I can kind of work around almost anything.
Okay, I'm looking for I'm gonna try and do a lunch hour, like from 12 to 12:30 or something.
I'm looking at my calendar.
Can you do Friday?
I can do Friday anytime.
All right, let me see if she can do Friday. I know the town hall's closed, but she usually works, so.
Yeah, and we can set up a Zoom at that point.
And Chris can, well, I don't even know if we need Chris. I just think we need you.
I would like Chris, just because I think with his background in all this, it would make things a little easier, especially if Tracy had any questions.
I can't do Friday at noon, but I could do Friday anytime after like 1:30.
Okay.
And I'm good too.
Okay. Let me circle back with everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to set us up for success.
Oh, yeah. Chris, if I can ask, can you start the work? Well, actually, we have to approve this first as a committee before we get to go on. But I'm saying if we approve this in the next minute or two, could you start working on this to at least get us
Of
wheels
course,
in motion?
yeah. The next step is requesting wage rates and doing some administrative type things. So, you know, this is not a heavy lift for me to get this. It's revising the alternate list and a couple of simple things. So yeah, we can start that.
All right, so now I put a motion to the floor to accept the revised estimate of probable construction costs provided by Huntress with the added additional 6 alternates being listed. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Nobody? Okay. All those in favor? Celine?
Yes,
David Dempsey?
Yes.
David Brohl?
Yes.
Mark Sand?
yes.
Okay. We will proceed at this point. As Alicia said, Alicia, Tracy, Chris, and myself will get together hopefully on Friday and make sure if there's any questions. If there is, I will send an email out to the group just so everybody's aware of, and then if we need to reschedule sooner. But I would like to, the last part of this meeting is schedule our next meeting, which right now it doesn't sound like we need to meet until probably the middle of the month until Chris gets his RFPs back.
Just everything you thought you knew.
I'm sorry, that's not everything I knew, Celine.
I don't know why this won't turn off. I'm
trying to find my calendar.
I'm sorry, I had to. Chris, are you going to show us something real quick again?
I am, and I'll
Okay,
make this
go
quick.
ahead.
But this is JPro's website, and we could use other manufacturers, but this happens to be one that we've used in the past. Does everybody see 6 different goalposts in front of them now?
Yep.
Yes.
So across the top, you've got a variety of different fixed in place goalposts. The one in the where my cursor is now, the LS200 RS is the system that we specified with you guys with an acrylic backboard that you see, like in the one in the upper right hand corner here. So at $2,400, there are some cheaper options that we could do. I look quickly at the main difference between, say these top 3 systems, and this system over on the left, which says the churchyard. The big difference between the one we spec'd and this one is that the post in the structure is a 4-inch square post, whereas over here it's a 6-inch square post. So that's the difference really between what I would call a commercial grade and like a residential style post. And the difference is about $700 plus or minus on each of the systems. You could do, the 6-inch on the 2 on either end, and then the 4-inch ones for the other 4 that are opposite side. But I think in the end, you're much better served with the 6-inch post because it's about durability and longevity. And these are public, and there's going to be some level of impact to them. I'm trying not to say abuse, but there'll be some abuse to them.
To be bluntly honest with you, if I was going to spend the money and you're worried about that, I'd almost go to the extra one right below it, the Titan, and spend extra $100 of basketball hoop. That almost make more sense. If I'm spending that much, that thing looks like it's, am I crazy?
Yeah.
Like I said, if I'm spending literally for an additional $100 and for probably an additional $900, you're getting probably the best thing we can put out there. Not that I'm trying to jack money because we can't afford to, but I'm just saying if that was one that we could possibly work a deal or something on, that would be probably, if I'm going to spend, if I'm going that high, I'd probably go a little bit more just to make sure we get the better end of it. Because that would help us even longer, especially because it's galvanized and we're in New England.
Yeah, it's a nice system. So, sure. That's all I've got.
Okay, so right now, next steps are you're going to put that together. We're going to get together on Friday. Hopefully we get that done with Alicia, and I appreciate that you doing that, Alicia. It certainly makes a lot of sense because we certainly want to make sure we get our ducks in a row regarding to money and what we can do. Next question is just when do we want to meet next? We can meet in 2 weeks and touch base on this, or we schedule out a month and figure out what we hear back from the RPs probably mid-month.
Is there anything else we need to address?
I don't have anything. The only thing right now I had on the agenda, but I apologize. I'm running out of time on my end. We do need to get the spring schedule finalized too. And Mark, what's up?
Yeah, I was going to say, when is the closing date for applications for spring use?
I don't have it handy off the top of my head. Does anybody know? Give me a second. Let me go to the thing. Because everybody's set with the exception of Sphinx. And talking to them down, the people at the green near the old police station, the green, the
Upper
Green.
the upper green. Thank you. They were okay with us using time on Saturday, on the weekends. It's during the week that they were going to have a problem. So, and I don't know how good it is for soccer at the same point. So it's really just a question how we're going to do it.
Mr. Chairman, if you're all set with me, I'm gonna.
Yes, Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll touch base hopefully in a couple of days.
Okay, thanks very much. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm just trying to find that policy quick. And the date, okay. Application due date is due by January 15th. Their permits are issued on March 1st.
But we're supposed to meet within 2 weeks.
We're supposed to what?
But we're supposed to meet within 2 weeks of the end date. so that they could plan.
So we can meet again in 2 weeks. That puts us, I'm trying to do my calendar in my head.
February 1st or 2nd.
If we meet for the first, it's just gonna be to decide the schedules and lay it out so we can notify the groups. Does anybody have a problem meeting on the first?
Nope.
Okay. Let's plan the same time, 6 o'clock, 7:30. If anybody else has anything else they wanted added to the agenda, I'm gonna put the basketball hoops on there, the basketball court on there, just in case we have anything. If not, we're fine. Anybody else have anything else they want to add to the agenda? Please let me know by the end of the week, just because I have to have it up by next Thursday, by noon. Anybody have any questions?
I just want to clarify one thing, Mike, for the committee. Jack, when he was speaking, mentioned that you guys have been tasked with being a revenue generating committee, and you're not. And I know you're aware of this, but I just want to read the charge of the committee as posted on the website. The charge of the Newbury Recreation Committee is to provide the residents of Newbury with a wide range of recreational opportunities. In addition, the Recreation Committee, in conjunction with the town administrator and other committees, will identify opportunities to develop new areas for recreation and bring proposals before the Board of Selectmen. So you guys are doing exactly as you were tasked. I'm very proud of this committee. I think you guys do great work. And I just wanted to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Should have known he was gonna do that. Other than that, do I hear a motion to adjourn at 7:33?
Make a motion to adjourn at 7:33.
Do I hear a
Second.
second?
Second,
Any discussion? All is in favor? Celine,
Yes?
Mark Sant,
Yes.
David Brohl,
yes.
David Dempsey.
Yes.
Thank you all. We'll see you on the 1st at 6. Thanks, Jack.
Have a
Thank
great
you, guys.
night, everybody.
Good night.
See ya.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye, guys.